Welcome back everyone, it's me Matt, and thanks so much again for joining me on this video today. We're in a world where anti-tank guided missiles dominate the battlefield, and there's clearly a lot of expectation when it comes to the performance, whether it be range, capability to engage multiple types of targets, specific armor penetration, cost analysis, ease of use, or the logistics to supply them. There's a multitude of different platforms that exist, and many of them are seeing the spotlight right now being tested in battle, such as Javelin, the NLOS from the West, and even some of the higher-end ATGM weapons that the Russians are using, such as the 9M133 Kornet, or even the Ukrainian Stugna P. But of all the ATGMs that exist out there, there was only one that really got me hot under the collar and begging to see more, which is the Israeli Rafael Spike ATGM, which to me at the time of researching it and making the video that you can go check out, which is right here, the missile was also what I deemed one of the best ATGMs on the market, and although very costly, it truly beat its competitors for a multitude of factors in the 4th and 5th generation of anti-tank guided missile platforms. However, things have changed a little bit since looking into more options that exist, and one in particular that I actually had the honour of seeing being tested in person with the CV90 platform in Sweden in a recent trip I made in November of 2022 to BAE Systems Hägglunds, who were also joined by MBDA, and you can go check out that specific video if you want also. So I hate to say this, Raphael, but step aside as I have made somewhat of a new missile to crush on in the ATGM market. Now let's be clear, I'm certainly not saying that Spike or the missile we're about to talk about is better than one another. Each system has its own unique attributes that make it fit for the end user and customer. But after seeing this missile firsthand and the damage it did and the capabilities it has, I am now more inclined to want to learn more about the new French Akeron MP missile from MBDA. Now the system is one of the most technologically advanced systems out there and a true 5th generation multi-purpose combat missile system for land and naval operations. Where collateral damage is a major issue, the modern ATGM weapon must offer perfect precision as well as extreme flexibility to confront to the not only heavily armoured MBTs that are out there, but also soft targets such as snipers that are concealed behind small walls, things like that you just can't see. Also of great importance is the need to ensure that the operator has the choice of full-on hands control throughout the entire flight envelope, minimizing that collateral damage or risk, and creating that fire and forget to minimize exposure time in a heavy fire zone. Of course, with the modern battlefield becoming more and more network enabled, today's ATGM needs need to be digitized to be able to play its part in operations of today. To meet the demands, MBDA has done very well with the Akeron missile, which is a very unique system that represents a huge advance from 4th and 3rd generation weapons currently available on the market. The Akeron, which is named from classical mythology but not quite spelt the same, is a river on which Hades of the underworld made the duty of Charon to ferry the souls of the dead across. In other words, this missile is the carrier of death in the infernal regions of, well, hell. A fitting name, though, for a missile that somewhat is being guided or led by a soldier, Charon, across the sky, the underworld river, to its target, which is death. This unique 5th generation land and combat naval system is really a very, very good system to also be integrated to vehicles, like I had mentioned with the deployment on the CV90, and also dismounted deployment is pretty easy for this system. It's not super heavy, it's not heavy duty, it's still a man-portable system, so it does have equipment that needs to be carried, tripod, the mounting unit, the rocket, etc. But overall, a very, very good platform in either mounted or dismounted role. Now, the missile was certainly incredible to watch live, and seeing what it could do to an actual target, it's not often you get to see the aftermath of a 5th generation missile hitting a target. Sadly, I cannot share any of the details of the aftermath, as this is actually classified information that I was able to see but can't share. But what I will say is I would certainly not want to be in any form of cover, whether that be a tank or bunker with that thing coming at me. This missile is certainly able to defeat almost everything in today's standards and armor that it could face, including the visibility of this system that can be used for tracing or tracking down targets was fascinating, and I was able to actually utilize the optics of the system on the visit, which was really, really cool. And of course, integrating everything in a dismounted platform is very, very important, but when it comes to vehicles, there's so much much more to think about. You know, the ability for you to be hunted down is a lot easier in an armored fighting vehicle than it would be in a dismounted role. And when you have a big old CV-90 chugging over the hill, you want to have drones and all the other capabilities that prevent you from being re-engaged from something else out there that could be trying to hunt you down when you fire that ATGM. The reality is, as a CV-90 or any infantry fighting vehicle, you shouldn't really be hunting tanks. This should really be primarily for self-defense. If you come across a battle group or some sort of engagement where you can't really get around it, you still want to reconnoiter or sort of get through that location, you have the ability, of course, with the Akeron attached to the CV-90 to engage, fire, and pull out again, which, you know, for me, I wouldn't really want to be going up against too much armor in this configuration, especially if it's just you on your own, which not normally going to happen. You're going to have a troop of these guys, 3 or 4 of these vehicles with Akerons supplied on each one of them. But in the configuration that I saw it, when I saw the target getting smashed by that Akeron missile and watching it launch, incredible. Of course, as I mentioned, once the engagement's been made, the vehicle does have to pull out of there, but the missile itself and the hit to the target really kind of threw me up as a wow. Like, this thing is doing some serious damage. Watching it hit the target from long distance really didn't do it justice until you see, as you see in this footage, it being engaged at close range. It completely annihilated the drum that it was going against. I was also luckily enough, though, given the opportunity to meet the users of the missile, both from the French military and the civilian staff testing the missile from MBDA, and it's fascinating learning from the hands of the user and the supplier the thoughts of the missile themselves. So much, in fact, that I had one of the friendly team members give us a walkthrough of the missile platform and the sighting system that comes with it. Now, some of you may have already seen this footage in the CV-90 visit I did with BAE Systems Hägglunds last year, but for those who haven't seen it, this is a really good insight firsthand as to how the system works.
With a tripod. With the javelin you can fire on the shoulder, MMP only on the tripod. You have in front the optics. Night camera, day, wide field of view and small field of view. On the left hand you have the observation handle. You can command day, night, mixed. You can change the field of view. You have 3 field of view, large, medium, small. On the other side you have the firing handle with the safety catch. When you open it, you activate the missile. If you don't fire, you close the safety catch and the missile goes down. It's one of the differences with Javelin. Javelin, when you activate the BCU, you have to fire. MMP, you can activate the missile, and when you decide no firing, you close the safety cap, the missile goes down. And you can do that a lot of time. There is no limit. Down, the red button is the firing button. Of course, if you press this one, the missile go out of the tube. And on this place you have the joystick. With the joystick you can, during flight, change your target or choose a point on the target where arrives the missile, the endpoint. Eyepiece here, you push it and you can see the landscape through the firing post optics. The munition is connected on this place, and you have short range 160 meters to 4 kilometers. The warhead, 3 capacity, anti-tank, anti-structure and anti-personnel, with the same munition. In the menu, the gunner select, before the firing, anti-tank or anti-structure. Anti-personnel is on in the boss mode. If you are going in the anti-structure mode, the warhead is adapted for this type of target, optimized for the structure.
Okay.
If you want, you can show inside the eyepiece to see the performance for the optic. can change the field of view. Now you hear the night camera start.
Now, this sight was incredibly clear and vivid when looking through it. The camera really does it no justice. I'm basically just using my iPhone at this point, filming through these optics. And the eye relief and the sort of variance of color you're seeing there is purely from the way in which the camera's just moving. But as you can see with that detectable range there, you're seeing that sort of differential between red and the gray transition, actually being able to highlight obvious targets like you're seeing right now, which is actually a steel target that we're trying to engage. It does have a uncooled IR seeker, allowing repeated lock-on potential to targets without consuming resources, and it has an extremely long power ratio for it able to be used in these modes, with one singular battery that can be used on a multitude of other French or NATO equipment that powers it up for quite some time using all different bands of observable imagery, which to me is a game changer when you're looking at something that can be engaging up to 4 to 5 kilometers away. You want something that has lots of battery power to enable you to watch and observe areas and targets for quite a long period of time, especially in a defensive configuration. But once this thing's plugged into a vehicle, you don't really have to worry too much about the battery. Now, some of you might be a little confused because there is actually some rebranding and renaming of the Akeron MP, because originally it was known as the combat-proven MMP medium-range missile, and its in-development MHT long-range missile known as the Akeron MP and LP now respectively. Choosing the names MMP and MHT, which are acronyms for French Missile Moyenne Portée and Missile Haute de Treme, respectively, previously led to confusion in the Anglo-Saxon community, which why they decided to take advantage of launching the extended version of the branding and portfolio to the Akeron MP and LP. And it's been in service formally as the MMP for about 5 years with the French Army, and has deployed to several theatres of operation, and has done very well indeed as to where it's been around the world. The weapon has been fired more than 200 times in combat scenarios, which is a very prominent sort of battle record for a missile of this kind. But let's get down to the juicy stuff. What exactly can this thing do in terms of punch? Well, it's meant primarily for infantry use, to use a 15 kilogram or 33 pound munition, and it can be integrated on a firing post weighing about 11 kilograms or 24 pounds, meaning this is fairly easily carried by 2 people and is very good at puncturing armor. There's not a huge amount of information as to how much it can puncture. It's pretty restrictive. Of course, this is a very prominent and new platform. As you can see by this small little vehicle here, it's getting absolutely annihilated, maybe a little bit of overkill. But the true capacity of this weapon is for its ability to not only take out heavily armoured structures or vehicles, but also have the ability to scout. It's almost like a reconnaissance missile, being able to give you a huge amount of information prior to setting a vehicle over the berm or into a combat scenario that you may not know what's over that next hill. Now, the Akeron MP and LP are a little bit different. The LP was designed for longer ranges as a little bit more flexible version of the MP, which really is placed on a drone more so. It's given semi-active lasers to the munition that allows the missile to lock on a very long range on a laser spot. The LP is suited for more of an anti-infrastructure target. For instance, it's been given the ability to have a big penetrator and then enable the missile to penetrate inside the buildings and then explode. The LP is still somewhat under development with the Tiger Mark III attack helicopters that are being used by Airbus and the French and Spanish military, so they're really what they're trying to focus that market brand for. But the MP is definitely more of a sort of ground-based attack weapon system. You'll notice with the lock-on capabilities with this system, it is a fire and forget, but also a man in the loop. So it is somewhat guided, but you can let it go and do its own thing at the same time. The fascinating thing about this missile, which I find, as I mentioned, is that non-visible target capability. You can actually launch this missile and have someone as a third party or infantry ahead of you, say on top of this hill in this scenario, scouting for where the target is and re-engage as you see fit. Maybe you'll see a tank that changes from what was an APC to a more juicy target, and then you can re-engage and adjust as necessary. That is incredible. You can't do that with Javelin and NLOS. You can with TOW, but TOW is a little bit more tough because TOW is a straight line of sight system. It cannot go up into the sky and then be guided down. It's just not the same configuration. With the Akeron, you get 3 setups: fire and forget, man in the loop with optical fiber data link, lock on after launch or LOAL, or non-line of sight NLOS using third-party target designation. Despite these features though, it's remained very effective against armor. The tandem warhead is used to make it very effective against composite and reactive armor. Upon detonation, the warhead sprays around 1,500 tungsten splinters, effective against personnel of up to around 15 meters or 49 feet. So if you're going for infantry, this is still going to do some really nasty work. And the missile integrates an inertial measurement unit, which is a new in class for light missiles developed by MEMS, or micro electrical mechanical systems. Together with the fiber optic data link, this allows the in-flight targeting and retargeting for lock-on after launch and operations, although the two selectable trajectory options are there too, with the low altitude or direct attack or top attack for targeting main battle tanks or through their turret, which is obviously their weaker point. The missile itself is a 115mm caliber, and its warhead does have that tandem charge. The charge is positioned in the forward part of the main rotor, and the main charge positioned behind the motor, with two selectable modes, either anti-armor or anti-infrastructure. And in anti-armor mode, it's been said, and it's hard to say if it's fully verified, but it's said it can penetrate up to 1,000mm or 39 inches of rolled homogeneous armor, and that's even with explosive reactive armor on there. With the infrastructure mode, it's able to breach over 2 meters or 6.6 feet of armed concrete or reinforced rebar concrete, and both modes, as I mentioned, feature an anti-personnel capability. And the true reason that this missile came to be was it was designed to overcome some of the Milan limitations in the small-scale counterinsurgency operations of 2000 and post-2000, rather than the Cold War tank era of the Milan original requirement, which was purely just to punch through armor. With this missile now, it's configurable for what they wanted it to do, especially in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. Man-portable missiles were often used against strong points and improvised armor within populated areas. I've seen what a javelin can do to a wadi wall. Believe it or not, those wadi walls, or those we call them wadi walls, but they're clay reinforced compound walls of Afghanistan, they can take a beating. I've seen 30mm is bouncing off the side of that clay wall. Hopefully a projectile of this kind will be able to do a lot more damage, but it's true. The way in which, fighting of today is that you want something that's configurable for a multitude of targets instead of having one ATGM that is designed just for tanks. This can take out buildings, it can take out infantry, exposed targets, top-down attack, you name it, this thing's got everything under one belt. And I really, really like that capability that the French military is trying to look for something that is a Swiss Army knife for the French military of missiles and rocket systems that can give the warfighter a huge amount of capability for what they want to do on the battlefield. But in summary, I truly do feel that the Akeron MP is probably the best missile in anti-tank guided missiles out there today. In the basis of it does have that huge amount of customization, that top-down scout ability, retarget acquisition ability, the substantial amount of penetration value, up to 1,000mm of penetration for a missile of this size, being that it's not absolutely gigantic, is pretty impressive. With a 5,000 or 4 to 5,000 meter range is really, really, really impressive. So Spike, I love you, but unfortunately it looks like the Akeron is taking over. I hope you enjoyed today's video, folks, and learned a little bit about the Akeron MP, or maybe its previous naming as the MMP. If you did enjoy the video today, please leave me a like and hit that little bell by the subscribe button if you want to see more videos of mine in the future. I do appreciate you all stopping by, and if you want to send any love or support to me and my channel, please go check out my description box below, which has my Patreon and my PayPal in there. Thank you to everyone who's been supporting me financially. This money goes towards supporting the channel and keeping it going, and I truly cannot thank you enough for doing so. You can also go check out my clothing brand, which I'm sponsored by, Attire for Effect. You can go check out their website for their clothing store. It's got some really cool stuff on there. You should go check them out, www.attireforeffect.com, and I hope to see you on the next video. All the best, everyone. Bye-bye.